Okie doke. So, I realized just before I turned the camera on that I'm wearing the same shirt I did in the last video and the same pants as well. I did manage to change my my tank top, which is a major accomplishment. But sometimes I get in a mode where I'm really comfortable wearing certain clothing, and it helps me, along with several other tricks that I use, to keep a good set of mind going while I'm painting. Yesterday at some point I was able to click in to that center of my head that kind of frees me up and puts me into meditative mode. And so I was able to do certain things in different paintings I'm working on very easily. And I don't want to lose it. So I'm wearing the same shirt. It's a little smelly, but it's not that bad. I'm using the same shirt as a visual trigger. So I click right back into it. Now I do have certain tricks that I use, and I've talked about them in other videos, like playing audible books. Sometimes I'll have a television show. I'll go on Netflix and I'll find a show that has several seasons, like 5, 6, 7 seasons, and I won't watch it, but it's just kind of there on a shelf, usually over in that corner where that painting is now, this particular painting, and it just plays. And for me, it's the, what on earth is going on with this eye? For me, it's the voices, the sounds, the continuity, the timing. I know how long the show is going to be. I know what the voices are. So they're a trigger. So I can just click back into that mode. This is a visual trigger. I have audible triggers. I have other tricks, like on sunny days, I have a way the curtains have to hang. So it triggers in my head. I have certain foods that trigger in my head, so I'm able to lock into the meditative mode, pick up where I left off, and I'm not lost in confusion. And what was I doing? What was I doing? And what was that thing I found that worked? I'm already right there. And it doesn't happen for everyone. It certainly didn't happen for me for a long time. It took a lot of training and retraining and trying. And I don't know how I fell into it. It was totally by accident. Nobody told me. So I'm sharing this with whoever's watching, so you might be able to set up your own triggers, so you can just fall into painting without it being a struggle, a major, psychological, emotional struggle. You just find a trigger and you go with it, make it work. Now, I really wanted to discuss, this morning I really wanted to discuss comfort zones before I take Bugsy for a walk, and he's holding his pee-pee right now. Not particularly happy with me, but I want to do the video. I'm very selfish that way. Do not tell him. Although he's sitting right there and he can hear me. I wanted to talk about comfort zones, because for a long time I only painted what I was comfortable with, which were, and I would take black and white photographs of children from the 1800s and early 1900s and paint them, or up to like the late 1940s. I love the quality of vintage antique photographs, just the sincerity in them, or the complete lack of understanding of how they are being captured. I love that. And I love that we can put ourselves in the photographs, or in the paintings I do of the photographs. But then at some point in time, I wanted to change. I wanted to do new. So I bought for me at the time, a very large canvas, a 3x5 canvas, and I did a painting of a dried fish carcass that I happened to have picked up off a beach on Cape Cod and brought home. So I did this large fish, very colorful fish. You can find it on my website on becklane.com, or whatever it is, on Wix anyway. You'll find a painting of a large fish. And that got me thinking and thinking in new directions. At first I was very uncomfortable, but I did it anyway, because I wanted to break out of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I felt it was time to try and spread my wings. So I started with this large canvas, and from there the canvases got bigger, and the images that I was referencing got even less comfortable for me. And in trying different things and getting out of my comfort zone, or what I thought I knew or should know, getting out of that mode of thinking, I've gone on to paint all kinds of things that 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago I wouldn't even consider painting. And one of them is people of color. Because I'm white, I don't know if you've noticed, but because I'm white female, I just never thought it was appropriate for me to take on people of color, different shades of browns, different nationalities. On Cape Cod, it's white people, white children, happy beachside, blah, 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 happy white. I don't live in that world anymore. I live in a much wider world where there are brown people everywhere, and most of the time I'm the only white person for blocks. And I'm fine, I'm perfectly happy like that. I'm much more comfortable than I thought I would be on Cape Cod. I didn't know it, but I had a certain condescension to people who didn't look like me, a certain arrogance. I freely admit that right now. I didn't realize it at the time, but I held a certain arrogance because that's what I was brought up with. That's what I knew from the people around me. We would try and be liberal and understand other cultures and be like, oh yes, my best friend is black, kind of thing. And not everyone, but a lot of people. And now I'm just like, I'm so excited to be painting people who don't look like me. I am out of my comfort zone. And the fantastic thing is, and I remember how it started too, I'll tell you, the fantastic thing is when people see my paintings without seeing this, they don't know that a 53-year-old white lady from Cape Cod has painted the image, and that is the biggest compliment I could ever get. And it's all because I reached outside of my comfort zone. And I remember the day it started. I was working for Trader Joe's, and I wanted to paint. I was watching the people walk around the aisles of Trader Joe's. And I worked in the art department in the Hyannis location, and it's mainly white people. But I'm watching people of other cultures, other colors walk through. And I, because I was responsible for the look and feel, the art department, I hadn't reflected anyone else in the world. And that was deeply myopic. That was profoundly myopic and selfish and arrogant and condescending. And it was just one day the switch flicked, and I walked up to my friend Clark, who worked there then, and I said he was the only man of color in the whole store, and only employee. And I walked up to Clark and I said, I'm going to ask you to help me with something, and you need to tell me if it's wrong of me to ask you, if it makes you uncomfortable, if I need to shut up and go away. I said, I think you've noticed, I don't paint anyone of color. I don't paint anyone outside of this pink spectrum. This whitey white Caucasian pink spectrum. And it needs to stop. I need help though, because I want to start on my next sign, and I need you to tell me if it feels correct. And so from that day forward, I would say to Clark, he would come in my office and I would show him before I put up the sign or illustration. I'd say, please, you need to tell me if this is wrong, if it feels wrong, if it feels like a white lady is talking down to brown people or people of other, people of non-white culture and non-white pilgrim culture, which is me. And Clark helped me navigate my way out of white picket fences, you know, full cape houses, you know, green lawns, you know, Lord and Taylor clothing, whatever. He helped me. He helped me to leave what I knew, along with the very large dead fish. But Clark really helped me. And I stayed at it and stayed at it, and I watched the people walk around the store. Every time I hung one up, I watched people walk around the store. And I would watch people of color, different nationalities, different shades of brown come in and look up and see the sign, and they would point. I still get goosebumps because I got it right. I got it right. I got out of my comfort zone. A little bit of help, I got it right. And so now it makes me so happy because people weren't going, you know when a man has painted a female figure, it's just always just a little bit off because they don't put themselves in the position of the female figure. They don't feel the hips. When they're painting or drawing, they don't feel the hips. They don't feel them. They don't put themselves in the other person's position. And that's what I had to try and learn to do when getting out of my comfort zone of whitiness. So we've gone on, here we are several years later, and I'm on my third version or fourth version of this particular painting, or, you know, figure, because I love this photograph. It's just a tiny little photograph I found, and I love it. So I'm doing another version of it, and in the other versions I've shown, or one that I've shown in several shows, and then a silk screen version, I've had umpteen people come to me who have seen it in person and said, "You didn't paint that. Who painted it?" And they're always people who don't look like me. And they may not believe me, the people who've seen it, and say that no. Makes me super proud. I got out of my comfort zone. I tried to put myself in that person's position, the subject's position, and I nailed it. It's a huge relief.